Okay, so there's a beautiful piece regarding Shmini Atzeres in the Yerach Lamad, the Memaimer Pei Aleph. He starts by quoting the Gemara in Sukkah. The Gemara says on Mem Ches that Shmini Atzeres is what we call a regel b'fnei atzmo. It is an independent Yuntif. Now Rashi explains over there that it's a regel b'fnei atzmo. Dr. Rashi, 3 words. Ein yoshvim b'sukkah. Why is it independent? Why is it unique? It's on its own. The answer is because we don't sit in the sukkah. So the obvious question, which many ask, including the Aruch LaNer and Daf Mem Zayin over there, is why doesn't Rashi point out, why doesn't he mention when he explains this Gemara how Shmini Atzeres is different? Why doesn't he say that it's what?
The acronym, something.
Pazer Kashev, yeah. So, but why doesn't Rashi say? Why does he say? Why does he only say that we don't sit in the sukkah? Why doesn't Rashi say that it's unique, that it's a regel of Ne'ashmo Shmini Atzeres is different than the regel of sukkahs because that we do not take the Daled Minim, and also additionally there is no Nisa Chamayim. What is the explanation of this Rashi? Something is very off about this Rashi. Something that we need to explain. So the Ramban writes that it's a regel of Ne'atzmo. He brings Rashi, he quotes this Rashi, that there's no sukkah. She'ein boy sukkah, says the Ramban, quoting Rashi, v'lulav. So the Ramban clearly adds lulav, at least in Rashi's girsa, saying that the Shmini Atzeres, that there's no sukkah and lulav. So he says both, not just one of them. Okay, so we see that Rashi is quoted as saying also that there's not lulav. Of course, still leaving out Nisa Chamayim. Now the Ritva as well in Daf Mem Zayin says that Rashi explains it's a regel of Ne'atzmo she'in shem chag sukkah aleh, and he says v'chem mefurish because of shu chaluk b'lulav v'sukkah. So he mentions both as well. But Lamais, at the end of the day, the Rashi that is in front of us when we open up the Gemara and Sukkah and Mem Ches, Rashi, the text that we have, our girsa is that there is no Sukkah. So why then does Rashi leave out the Daled Minim? Right. So could be the Aruch LaNer comes in and answers and says that even though he only says Sukkah, Chad Minai hu nakit. Rashi just said one of them for sure. Also, there's not Daled Minim, but he just said Sukkah. But he still says Sarachin. One needs to look into this. It is not so simple. Not so simple. So here's a new reason that we could say. We take a look at the piyut in Mariv and Shmini Atzeres in Ames V'Emunah. The Paitan over there, the author of the piyut, it's called the Paitan. So over there, he lists the attributes of Shmini Atzeres, the positive characteristics about this regel with Ne'atzmo. He says, what is Shmini Atzeres? Shemine viser l'sukkah oitzrim l'yeshe bebatim ubechatzerim b'yom hashmini. That Hashem overlooked us sitting in the sukkah, and we sit in our houses. So we see that the Paitan within this piyut, look at the rest of the piyut, he's talking about the attribute that, oh, what a positive thing that we don't sit in the sukkah. We go into the house. So the question is, what is it talking about? Why is this a positive? That we're leaving the sukkah and going into the house, that's a good thing? During the year, we don't sit in the sukkah anyways. So now are we saying that us departing, leaving a mitzvah is a good thing? Histalkus min a sukkah? Removing ourselves from a mitzvah, not performing a mitzvah, that's a good thing? What's pshat over here in this piyut? What's the hesber? What's the explanation over here? So it must be that one of the positive attributes of Shmini Atzeres is that we leave the sukkah and that we go into the house. Not just because we completed the mitzvah of sukkah, that we go into our house, that we go into our houses. Rather, there's something positive over here. There's a reason for going into the sukkah and Shmini. There's a reason for this, right? Now, in this, we go from the sukkah into the house, right? So what's the explanation over here? So he says like this, that one of the forms of Shmini Atzeres is we go into the house, right? Not just because we completed the mitzvah of Sukkah at the end of 7 days, and therefore we're going into the house. Rather, the truth is, this is a reason, this is the reason itself, right? To sit in the Sukkah. In other words, there really should be a reason to sit in the Sukkah on Shmini. Technically speaking, okay, thank you, good idea. Technically speaking, there should be a reason to sit in the Sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. Technically speaking, there should be a reason. Now, instead, we go from the Sukkah and we go into the house. Now, there is some reason, whatever the reason is, technically speaking, that we should sit in it, right? There is a Sveika Diyoma, that's something else. And there's a reason to sit in it. But instead, we go from the Sukkah and we go into the house. We disregard that reason. So, if we take a look at Targum Yonasan ben Uziel in Parshas Pinchas on the pasuk Chav Tes Lamed Hey B'Yoyim Hashmini Atzeres Tielechem. So what does Targum over there say? Targum Yonasan ben Uziel in particular, not Targum Onkelos. B'Yoyim Timna'a, that's the 8th day that we're talking about over here. Kinishin Tehovin B'Chedva Min Matvilichoin Lebatechon. Which means that we gather. We gather happily from our sukkahs into our houses. So we see that there's an idea of going happily into our houses from the sukkah. So we see that the word atzeres comes from the language of gathering, asifa. We're gathering ourselves, a knisa. We're gathering ourselves, we're collecting ourselves on the 8th day, and we're going from the sukkah into our house. So this is the same idea that the Python is mentioning over here. That in the piyut, it was a good thing. That now we're going from the into out of the sukkah into the house. That it's a positive. So it's the same exact idea that we see from Targum as well.
Chedva is the happiness.
Correct. Like we say, Ditza, Chedva, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So now, when Rashi said above, Rashi says that Shmini Atzeres is a regular b'fnei atzmo, an independent Yuntif. Why? Rashi specifies because we do not sit in the sukkah. Rashi didn't mention the Daled Minim. He said because we do not sit in the sukkah. So Yesh Leimer, that Rashi was saying it purposely. Rashi purposely only mentioned sukkah and nothing else. And he says that's why we don't sit in the sukkah, right? Why? Because Rashi's intention is that is the order of what's customarily practiced on that day. In other words, what we do is we go from the sukkah into the house. That's what's practiced. That's what's done. Right? That's the idea. That's what's done. That's what's practiced. That's the explanation. Right? Like the pasuk says, and like Targum said, like we just said, Targum Yonasan ben Uziel. In other words, not only is the mitzvah of sukkah not practiced on that day, right? The idea is that we go into our house though, and therefore he said specifically sukkah, not lulav and nisach hamayim. What?
We should be happy about it.
Yeah, happy. Yeah, that's it. That's saying. Yeah.
On to the next mitzvah.
Yeah, exactly. Happily. So, the question on this is, what is this idea that we're going from the sukkah going to the house? There's a concept of leaving a mitzvah until the extent that the name of the yontif is called atzeres because we have a stoppage of the performing of a mitzvah from the sukkah. Furthermore, Sarachin, the Targum says that it should be done happily. So now we should be happy that we're not performing a mitzvah, that we're exempt from a mitzvah. What exactly is this explanation over here that we should happily leave the sukkah? What is this? Where's the simcha of forsaking, of leaving a mitzvah? Why is that a happy thing to do over here? So we could explain this based on quoting of Vilna Gaon. The Gra writes the Torah and Parshas Pinchas over there, Chavtes Lamed Hey, comes out from that Gra that the 7 days of Sukkot correspond to the 7 Rikiyim, and Shmini Atzeres corresponds to planet Earth. What on earth is the Vilna Gaon talking about over here? 7 Rakiyim, 7 days of Sukkot, 8-day planet Earth. What is this talking about over here? So an explanation could be based on a Ramchal, which he quotes probably around a dozen times throughout this over 600-page sefer with 90 different pieces. 92 to be exact. Quotes this Ramchal. The Ramchal writes in his Derech Hashem, Chelik Daled Pereches Ov Beis. He says, we know that we have the mitzvah of Sukkah, which commemorates the Anani HaKavod, these clowns of glory that HaKadosh Baruch Hu surrounded us with to physically protect us. So, besides for their physical purpose in a gashmius way, they physically protected us from the outside elements. They had an additional benefit as well. They had spiritual benefits as well. That just like through these clouds, through these anonim, so then Klal Yisrael was separate. They were muvdalim, writes the Ramchal, levadim v'nesuim in aretz, that just like we were physically separate, we were separate from everyone else, so too, in terms of from a spiritual way as well, we are physically separate. We are separate from others. We are unique. We are uplifted in a spiritual way. We're above everything else. That happened to Klal Yisrael back then to reach this high level. And the truth is that this doesn't just apply back then. This applies throughout every single day and age as well. Even nowadays as well. We're uplifted. We have an aura of this Kedusha that continues, that surrounds everyone. Every single tzaddik from Klal Yisrael and separates him from everything else on this planet. Uplifts him. And then he concludes by saying, the Ramchal, Umeschadesh davar zeh b'Yisrael b'chag HaSukkos al yidei HaSukkah. This phenomenon occurs annually. Every single Sukkos, we tap into this level. So we see clearly, according to this Ramchal, that the mitzvah of Sukkah demonstrates that Klal Yisrael is higher up, that we are on a different level. Just like in the Midbar, when it came to the Anani HaKavod, we were physically and spiritually uplifted, just like it happened to them, so too it happens to us annually on Sukkot. That we get lifted above. Based on this, we could explain that Shmini Atzeres, why Shmini Atzeres, we leave the house, we leave the sukkah and we go into the house. It's not pshat that we are leaving this exalted level that we merited reaching on Sukkot to be uplifted, and now we return back to planet Earth on a lower level. Rather, on the contrary, when we leave the sukkah, we need to go into the house with all of these levels that we attained. We need to remain on this higher level that we reached, that we attained on Sukkot. And we need to bring them down to our life, our physical life, ba'aretz, on planet Earth. We need to take those madrigas and bring them back down.
Okay.
We need to take that level that we reached. We need to take the level that we reached and we need to bring it back down over here. We need to bring it back down to planet Earth, those high, lofty levels that we merited reaching, to the extent that even when we're on the land over here, planet Earth, we're going to be, physically we're here, but in terms of spiritually, we're on a different level. And therefore, we have a special Yuntif, Shmini Atzeres, where we leave the sukkah and when we go into the house with this exact intention. To bring, when we go into our house, metaphorically, spiritually, it's alluding to this concept that we're entering in everything that we gained throughout the Yuntif of Sukkot, we're bringing it into the house. We're bringing the Ananya Kavod into the house. We're bringing the Madrega of Nesuim and Audits that were uplifted into the house. We're bringing all of that with us. According to this, we could explain that which the Vilna Gaon is teaching us. The 7 days of Sukkot are connected the 7 Rakiyim. Shmini Atzeres is connected, corresponds to planet Earth, the land. That doesn't mean chas v'shalom to say that Shmini Atzeres is a yerida, is a descent. Is us going lower from our lofty level that we attained on Sukkot. On the contrary, Shmini Atzeres is a madrega. It's a level that's even higher than Sukkot. Because on Sukkot, we're only zoicha for this level of that we're uplifted when we're in the sukkah, which corresponds to the Ananya Kavod. And therefore, we have the 7 days of Sukkot corresponding to the 7 Rakiyim. However, after we finish the 7 days of Sukkot, we go even higher. We go into the level of that we are uplifted. Even in our house, even on the Aretz. That's what the Vilna Gaon means when he says that Shmini Atzeres has to do with the Aretz. It doesn't mean that we had a descent, a spiritual descent, a yerida, that we lowered our level. On the contrary, it's an aliyah. We're uplifted, and we bring that high level that we achieved on Sukkot with us back to planet Earth outside of the Sukkah, to continue to remain uplifted even though we're out of the Sukkah and we're on planet Earth. So the truth is, this stems with what's discussed in Shir HaShirim. The first 4 psukim of Shir HaShirim, Vilna Gaon discusses in the beginning of Shir HaShirim, correspond to 4 times. The Exodus, Yetziat Mitzrayim, when we receive the Torah, that's number 2, Matan Torah. The building of the Mishkan, that's number 3, and coming into Eretz Yisrael, that's number 4. Now, in correspondent, we have to these 4 times, which correspond to these 4 times, are the following 4 Yamim Tovim: Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, and Shmini Atzeres. So the Vilna Gaon discusses. So now, according to this, stems very nicely. We have the 4 times alluded to in the first 4 psukim of Shir HaShirim. The 4th of that list is what? Is coming, right, is Shmini Atzeres, but the previous list of the 4 different times, Yetzias Mitzrayim, Matan Torah, the building of the Mishkan, and Bias Haaretz. So the 4th is coming into Eretz Yisrael. And so too, correspond to this, we have the 4 Yomim Tovim. The 4th is Shmini Atzeres. So Shmini Atzeres has to do with coming into Eretz Yisrael, going into it. So what's the deeper idea? Going into Eretz Yisrael after 40 years when Klal Yisrael is in the Midbar. And we're mukafim be'ananya kavod. We're surrounded by these ananya kavod. We are spiritually uplifted. As others explain, to elaborate on this even more, that's not written over here. When we were in Eretz Yisrael, it was 40 years essentially of kolo. That's what it was. We didn't need to worry about any gashmias. Our laundry, no problem. It was done. Our food, our water, it was taken care of. Everything was taken care of. No one needed to work. Everyone was just learning Torah, just doing all mitzvahs all day. But then once we came into Eretz Yisrael, this is where things got very complicated. We came into Eretz Yisrael, and now there's work to be done. There's no more free lunch. That's it. Now people have to start working. So the idea is that the avoida is that when coming into Eretz Yisrael, to bring everything that we learned, everything that we collected, that we gathered in the Midbar, to bring that into our daily life, and for lack of a better word, natural life, so to say. Meaning everything is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, but non-miraculous, openly miraculous lives. So correspondent to coming to Eretz Yisrael is the Yuntif of Shmini Atzeres. Because after the 7 days of Sukkot, which correspond to the Ananya Kavod in the Midbar, Then we go into our house. We bring everything that we learned from Sukkot, all of the high levels that we achieved on Sukkot, that we gained from sitting in the Sukkah, we bring that into our daily life. So too symbolized by going into Eretz Israel. Same exact idea. Shmini Atzeres, going into Eretz Israel, bringing it into our life. Same exact idea. Beautiful idea. Based on this, we could explain easily the explanation of Targum Yonasan Ben Uziel when he says that Atzeres Tielachem Knishoin Tehovin Bechedvon Min Matilechon Lebesechon, to go in, to enter happily from our sukkah into the house. What does Targum mean over here? Happily go into the house. The explanation to this Targum Yonasan Ben Uziel perhaps is the key to the essence. The explanation to this is the key to the essence, the foundation of the Yuntif of Shmini Atzeres. The foundation of this Yuntif is going from the Sukkah with all of the high levels that we achieved, that we gained throughout Sukkot, and bringing them into the house, meaning to live with them in our house with this higher level of Sukkot, which corresponds to the Anania Kavod. So it comes out that Chas v'Shalom, it wasn't established that Shmini Atzeres is a time to forsake, to leave mitzvahs. On the contrary, we take all the mitzvahs and continue the positive momentum and keep the dominoes going, domino effect. We bring it into the house, keep the momentum going. That's why Targum Yonasan Ben Uziel said to go into the house to go from the sukkah into the house, b'chedva, with simcha, with happiness, with joy, meaning to leave from the sukkah and go into the house joyfully. That doesn't mean chas v'shalom, like we said, to stop performing a mitzvah with simcha, that we should be happy that we didn't perform a mitzvah. That's not true. On the contrary, we should have a simcha. The simcha that we acquire, that we gain such lofty levels throughout Sukkot to be uplifted. That's the idea. And that's why it's a tremendous simcha. Because that is the true simcha. The true simcha is, and this is a massive discussion in and of itself, what is simcha? Right? So he says over here, I'll start ranting a little after, but just to quote what he says first. He says, quote, Iker simchas ha'odam hu kasher hu meruma min ha'aretz hagashmi ve'enyoni olam hazeh. The main simcha that a person will have in life is when a person is uplifted from the physical land and from this world. Ki adarabba, kisha odam nidbak ve'enyonim gashmiyim ve'enyoni ha'chaymer in simchot soy simcha imosis. On the contrary, when a person is attached to physical things, to gashmias, to chaymer, he won't have a true simcha. Like the Rabbeinu Bechaya writes in his Karach Kemach, in Erech Simcha, Iyev Sharlo v'odam sheyismach simcha nefesh, ad she'atziv esaguf. It's impossible for a person to have a simcha in the soul until he saddens his body. That's what Targum Yonasan Ben Uziel says, that when you go into the house, go in b'simcha. Because right now, we reach the true simcha. In other words, people, they're running after all these things, all this stuff. They think it's going to bring simcha. It won't bring simcha. They say, the saying goes, the pasuk says, "Hakesef ya'aneh es hakol." Money answers everything. What does that mean? It's not true. With money, you cannot buy love. You cannot buy simcha. You can't buy a lot of things. So what some explain is that it refers to that it will cause people to do things had there not been money involved, they wouldn't have done it. That's what it means, that it answers everything. But a true simcha, that can't buy. Can't buy. Can't buy true love. You can't buy Torah with money. You have to be Amel b'Torah. You have to learn it. You have to work hard with it. Certain things you could buy. You could pay for a rabbi to teach you. Okay, you could do that, but lamaisa, if a person wants to become a tremendous Talmid Chacham, that's not enough unless you're going to pay him the whole day and you work on it the whole day. It still requires effort on your behalf. You still have to do something for it, right? So it can't buy a lot of things. It can't buy happiness. Can't buy happiness. It could be that statistically, maybe people who are poor might not be as happy. There's what to look into there. But if a person thinks that by buying certain items, that will help certain fancy clothing, dining, fine dining, nice vehicles, nice houses, multiple houses, nice vacations, it's all fleeting. It might temporarily bring him joy, but it's not going to be an internal joy which will last. And someone who's just relying on purchasing all of these items and being involved with the chaymer, with the physicalities of this world, and is just going to go for that. Well, we got news for that person. He's heading for depression, because that's not where the true simcha is going to be found. It's not going to happen. That's exactly what this is teaching us over here. How does this tie in over here? When the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel said, go into the house, bechedva with simcha, he's referring to taking those lofty spiritual levels that we achieved when we realize what's truly important and making that the main focus. Now, this isn't to say that a person can't have or shouldn't have any of those items on occasion, or if they're needed, and they help facilitate the ultimate purpose of it is avodas Hashem, if they're being used to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to be able to get him to learn more and to do more mitzvahs, so then fine. Then already those physical items are being turned into something physical. But a person can't kid himself, though. He has to know. And he has to know what the focus is. That's what it's referring to go into the house with simcha. So with this, we could explain a Vilna Gaon, another Vilna Gaon. It says in the Meiser Rav, in Os Reish Lamed Gimel, the sefer that records the acts of the Vilna Gaon, that the Vilna Gaon was Sameach Ma'oid Bechag HaSukkos, tremendous amount of simcha. Ubi Yoiser B'Shmini Atzeres. He had even more simcha in Shmini Atzeres. I don't understand. Why more simcha in Shmini Atzeres than the rest of Sukkos? Why is Shmini Atzeres so chashiv, so important? Kabbalistically, there's more simcha in Shmini Atzeres. Why? The question is, what's the explanation? Kabbalistically, okay, what's the pshat? There's more simcha. What's the Kabbalistic pshat? What's any pshat? So there's numerous interpretations of this, but based on what we just said, we could easily answer this question. Sukkos, we reach this very high level, simcha yeseda. We reach such a lofty level, which brings us true simcha. When we sit in the sukkah, we're uplifted. Shmini Atzeres is the climax of all of this simcha. It's all of it together. And even when we go into our house, we reach the level of being uplifted. And we become free from the physical and tanugi haguf, the physicalities, which cause us to lose true simcha. In other words, what he's saying over here is very profound. Sukkos represents diras arai, that we leave our nice houses, which are strong, which are built well, and we go into this temporary shack-like structure, which symbolizes that everything in this world is fleeting, is temporary. And we start focusing on what's real. Once we do that, then we'll realize what true simcha is. That's why the Vilna Gaon had such a tremendous amount of simcha and Shmini Atzeres. Even at the Vilna Gaon's level, someone who is completely removed from the physical world for the most part, even for the Vilna Gaon himself, he realized this idea that what the sukkah represents and the zone that it gets a person into and the state that it gets a person into. That's why there's such a simcha over here. And that's why Rashi said just sukkah. Rashi said just sukkah because that is the ikr mohos of the Yuntif. The essence of the Yuntif is why Shmini Atzeres is a regal b'fnei atzmo, an independent Yuntif, has nothing to do with Daled Minim. It happens to be that we don't take Daled Minim. It happens to be that there's no Nisa Chamayim. But the main idea is that we take everything that we had, all of these Yomim Tovim, this entire duration, this whole sequence of events, this beautiful lineup that we have, the jam-packed month, Yerech HaYisan, and we take all of it and we close it up, but we bring it back down into our daily lives. We take these hashkafas, these ideals with us into our daily lives so that we don't get lost into what real simcha is, and we realize what the main focus is on life. We take everything else and we say, no, we realize that it's just unimportant. That's not what it's about. What it's about is ruchni, Torah mitzvahs, connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what will really cause a person to be at a higher level. You know, nowadays you have all of these sorts of problems that people are encountering. And from what I'm told, is that the therapists in the frum communities are pretty busy with all sorts of issues. And from what I'm told, also from someone else, is that the Alcohol Anonymous, there's a lot of Jews that, unfortunately, and all of these things. It says in the Sifsei Chaim, why do people do these things? The drugs, the alcohols, why do they do that? So it explains that when a person does these other things, he's trying to go into a different state, a non-existent state. Also, you could say maybe with TV, movies, a person's trying to get out of the reality, go into a different realm, a different mental state. That's not what's going to bring a person happy. It's not going to make him happy. Happiness is something which is much deeper, which comes internally, which comes when a person realizes that what he's doing is important in life. And a person has to realize that. There's a lot more to say on this topic of simcha in general. And I was going back with an arichos, someone who wrote a whole kuntris, a whole sefer really on this. And the idea is that true simcha is when a person is involved with something which has actual importance, with something that's spiritual, with something that's real. Not something that doesn't really matter. And to be in his current state, not an alternative state. So that's what I have to say. There are a few additions on this piece. So everyone should have a wonderful Yuntif. Take this, bring it in, keep doing what we're supposed to be doing. Brochim to you.
It's not just Rashi from the Baladav standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to the Suka, he wasn't talking about like the B'nai Chutzlaretz.
No. For sure not. No.
So not, okay.
For sure not. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the Gemara, he said, that he said, Yotzim no Sukkah, that's in Sukkah, right? It's not Polish.
Yeah, that's in Sukkah. That's the because they're defining what the pasuk means. Yeah, connecting it all together. He's fabulous. Fabulous. Sukkah Memches. Yeah, very good.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, see you next time.
Oh, that's right. So my flight was canceled going back from Eretz Yisrael to here.
Yeah.
So I may not be back till Thursday afterwards, because we gotta go to Dubai, and then it's like.
Okay, text me. Let me know the date.
But it's not that I don't want to be, it's just that.
Yeah, no
A
problem.
lot of problems getting there.
No, Jean.
For sure. So let me know the date.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Okay.
thanks a lot.
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask the rest.
Yeah, no, for sure
Okay,
not.
thanks a lot. Thanks.
Also,
No, of course not. I did anything right.
no,
Okay, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Have a great-
Yeah, good, Yontif. Maxim Tov. What's up, David?
Not much. It's still recording, I think.
Yeah, should I shut it?
Probably.
Yeah?
Well,
You
It
gonna
doesn't
shut it?
matter. No, we're always being recorded, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Wait. No, wait, so what are we gonna meet? We're gonna meet, what is
We'll
is
be in
the date?
touch. We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. After Sukkot, we'll be in touch.
After, I can't, I'm not thinking about after Sukkot yet, although we're thinking about Shmini Atzeres, but,
We'll be in touch.
wait, why is it that, I really have not had time to, oh, it's funny, there's this artificial pond right across the street from me. It's pretty funny, like, not a pond, artificial, like, what do you call it, like a koi pond, or like,
Yeah,
even smaller than a koi pond. It's really better to go to the ocean, right?
correct.
Even if I have to wait till like Hoshana Rabbah, it's better to go to the ocean.
I mean, better to go as soon as you could because it's Rizim Magdimin, Tashlich, you do it ASAP.
But It's funny. All right, so but I should really who was saying that an artificial pond is not so great?
That's we saw. Look at the notes that I sent you.
Fine. All right.
In the document.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. A good
Alright.
given.
All right. Go Gemenche.
All right.
Machsim Tov.
Right.
All right. Machsim Tov. All right. Machsim Tov.
Why is not gonna come?